Hello, and welcome to The Brief Insight, your go to podcast for breaking down the latest trends, research, and policies shaping our world. Whether you're passionate about sustainability, global economics, or emerging innovations, this is where we simplify complex ideas to keep you informed and inspired. If you enjoy what you hear, don't forget to like this episode, subscribe to our channel, and share it with anyone looking for insights that matter. We're here every Monday and Friday, so hit that notification bell to stay updated. Your support helps us grow and continue bringing you sharp, relevant content that sparks conversation. Thank you for tuning into The Brief Insight. Now let's dive into today's topic.
Ever get curious about how things work? Like,
Right.
really work?
Mhm.
Especially when it's something massive and kind of complicated, but, it impacts, like, everyone.
Definitely.
Yeah. But who has the time to dig through all the research, right?
Right.
That's what we're here for.
Exactly. To unpack the complex things, make them a little more understandable.
Today,
Mm.
football.
Mm.
The business of it, actually. Billions love the game, but, how does it really function as this global industry?
I mean, it really is remarkable. For this deep dive, we looked at a lot. Publications about the football business specifically.
Okay.
Stuff from the financial world, how clubs are building their brand. We even looked at some academic research, the series stuff that examines football's role in the global economy and international trade.
Right. The big picture.
Exactly.
So we've got sponsorships, TV deals, merchandise, all that good stuff.
And how all of that impacts not just the sport, but like whole national economies.
Okay, let's start with something everyone sees.
Yeah.
Every single match. Those sponsorships. Easy to think that's a new thing, but it's not, is it?
Yeah, you see those huge logos everywhere, jerseys, stadiums, and you just kind of assume it's always been that way. But think about it. The need for cash for financial support, that's been there from almost the beginning, like way back when.
Right, like before the huge money came in.
Yeah, it was mostly club owners funding their teams, through ticket sales, hoping to maybe, just maybe, make a little profit.
Makes sense.
But things changed. The game got more competitive. Clubs wanted better players.
It means better contracts.
Exactly. Ticket sales alone, not going to cut it. They needed more money.
Enter sponsors.
Exactly. It started small, local businesses, putting their logo on something for a bit of cash, brand awareness, that kind of thing.
Yeah. You see that in other sports too.
Absolutely. But then things, they exploded. We're talking a multi-billion-dollar industry now.
Yeah.
Stadium naming rights, ads everywhere. Crazy. The key takeaway here is the transformation. It went from local businesses supporting their teams to this massive global marketing machine.
And perceptions change too, right? Like, remember Kettering Town in the 70s?
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to put Kettering tires on their shirts.
Oh, yeah, Kettering tires.
And the FA shut it down. Said, no way.
Yeah.
But looking back, that was a sign of things to come.
Totally. It seemed like a small thing, even rebellious at the time. Local tire company wanting to support their local team? Now, it's the norm. Teams wouldn't survive without it.
And just a few years later, those shirt deals. Worth millions. Not for Kettering tires, though, sadly.
Right. The potential for brands to reach a huge audience, it was just too big to ignore.
Speaking of audience, who's doing the sponsoring now? Look at the Premier League. It's full of iGaming brands, isn't it? Betting companies everywhere.
Yeah, you can't watch a match without seeing one. Why are they all over football? It's all about strategy. Think about it. Online gambling, betting, all that. It's super competitive.
Very crowded market.
Tons of companies, they need to stand out. So sponsoring a big club, that's huge for brand recognition. And it fits perfectly with what they offer. Bonuses, jackpots, even football-themed games.
Right, trying to appeal directly to fans.
Exactly. And they're always innovating, premium blackjack, all these different variations. It's all about keeping those players engaged.
So more than just awareness,
Yeah.
it's a direct link to their product. Do they actually see a return on that investment, though?
Well, concrete numbers are tough to find, but they keep investing. So they must see value.
It makes sense. Huge audience, passionate fans, perfect target market. But you hinted that this might change, that iGaming dominance might not last forever.
Yeah, I gotta look at the bigger picture. The iGaming market is consolidating. Less competition eventually. So clubs might have to look to new industries for sponsors.
Got to adapt.
Absolutely. The landscape's always changing.
Regardless of who's paying. That money is vital, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a bonus for clubs. It's the foundation.
Yep.
It pays the players, funds the whole operation.
100%.
Okay, sponsors were important early on, but you said TV was the real game changer. Why? What made it so different?
Television. Well, it took football's finances and launched them into space. Sponsorships were good. But TV rights fees, that was a whole new level. At first, TV companies, they paid. But it was small.
Right, like it was new territory for everyone.
Yeah. But then they saw it, that huge, passionate audience. That's when the bidding wars started. And suddenly, money was pouring into football. It wasn't just a boost, it changed everything. The best players went to the richest leagues. It created this whole new level of competition.
It basically restructured the entire sport, didn't it? Looking back, what were the biggest changes? How did TV fundamentally change the business side?
Well, one huge shift was the power it gave to the top leagues and clubs. The Premier League is a perfect example. They split from the old football league. Why?
Yeah.
Because they knew TV was where the money was. And now they're making over £3 billion a year from TV deals, domestic and international. That kind of money attracts the best players, which makes the league even more attractive to TV companies. It's a cycle.
£3 billion. That's hard to even comprehend. And for individual clubs, what does that actually mean? What do they see from those TV deals?
Okay, so the top teams, they get more, right? More games on TV. But the key is every Premier League club now gets at least $106 million per season just from TV. Think about that. Just 6 years ago, a club making $100 million in total revenue was huge news. Now it's just a bounce line.
That kind of money has to impact everything, right? Like player transfers. It's a seller's market now.
Absolutely. Clubs have money to spend, so players can demand huge transfer fees. And if you want to win, you got to pay.
Makes sense. The best players cost the most money. But it's not just the big leagues, is it? There's this whole other financial landscape we haven't even touched on.
Right. It goes beyond the big TV deals. Those are important, sure. Like the Premier League getting all that money from international broadcasters, Asia, the Middle East, the Americas. They're reaching fans everywhere. But for smaller clubs, it's the regional deals that matter. Local TV contracts. That can be the difference between surviving and going bankrupt.
Yeah, those smaller deals are crucial. And it's all changing so fast, too, the way we watch football.
Streaming, right, DAZN, all these platforms, it's completely changed how fans watch matches. So now you have these deals focused on accessibility, reaching those younger fans who are always online.
Meeting them where they are.
Exactly, that's the future.
And the money's not just in shirt sponsorships, right? That's just the tip of the iceberg.
You got those big jersey deals, Manchester United, Barcelona, millions every year. But it goes way beyond that. Clubs are partnering with brands from everywhere. Cars, food, banks, you name it. Manchester City has this deal with Etihad Airways. It's for like 10 years, and it's worth over $400 million. That shows you the power of these partnerships.
That's crazy money. And it's not just about the money either, is it? It's about the brand association.
100%. When a club partners with a big, reputable brand, it elevates them, makes them look better.
More credible.
Exactly. That attracts more fans, and that attracts more sponsors. It's a cycle.
But they got to be careful, right? Don't
Yeah.
lose that connection with the fans, with the community.
That's the risk. Over-commercialization. Clubs have to find that balance. You can chase money, but if you alienate your fans, it's all over.
Really is a tightrope walk. Now
Right.
let's talk social media. It's been huge for every industry, hasn't it? How's it impacted football?
Social media. It's transformed how clubs interact with fans and how they make money. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, it's instant connection.
Yeah, direct line to millions of fans all over the world. And that viral potential, it's huge.
You can reach so many people, match highlights, behind-the-scenes stuff. If it goes viral, it's global.
And for brands, that's gold.
Yeah.
A club with a massive online following, that's got to be worth a lot.
Big time. Brands want to reach those younger fans. Social media is the way to do it. So clubs with huge followings, they can charge a lot for sponsored content. It's a whole new revenue stream.
So it's not just likes and retweets, it's real money.
Absolutely. More engagement online leads to more ticket sales,
Yeah.
more merchandise. Exactly. And the data you get from social media, that's valuable too. Clubs can see who their fans are, what they like. Then they can make smarter decisions.
Makes sense. Target those marketing campaigns.
It's all connected.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit. How do clubs actually make money? And where do they spend it?
Right. The big picture. So revenue comes from a few places. Branding rights, that's the big one. And most of that is broadcasting money.
TV deals.
Exactly. Player transfers are another one, but that's always unpredictable.
Right, depends who you buy and sell.
And then you have match day income, ticket sales, concessions, that kind of thing. But for big clubs, that's actually a smaller part of their total revenue.
Really? That's surprising.
Yeah, those TV deals are huge. And it's the football authorities that negotiate those, right? The FA, UEFA. They get the money and then distribute it to the clubs.
Okay, makes sense. What are those kit deals? Nike, Adidas, those must be worth a lot.
Oh, yeah, they can be massive. Big upfront payments. Or a percentage of the merchandise sales.
So the club gets a cut of every jersey sold.
Yeah. And then you have your regular advertising, stadium signage, logos on the kits. All that contributes.
You mentioned the Champions League. The money involved there is crazy.
It's unbelievable. UEFA distributes billions to the clubs. A team like Manchester City, after winning it, they were projected to earn something like 60 million just from that one competition.
Wow, so much money. On the flip side, what are the biggest costs for clubs? Where does all of that money go?
Biggest one, wages, players and coaches. Manchester City, their wage bill for the 21-22 season was $353 million. That's over half their total operating expenses.
It's insane.
Then you have stadium costs. Maintaining it, upgrading it, that all adds up. And then there's this thing called impairment adjustments. It's for intangible assets.
Tangible assets, what's that?
Basically, it means player contracts. As a player gets older or closer to the end of their contract, their value goes down. That has to be accounted for. And for City, that was another 22% of their costs.
So player contracts are a huge deal. You mentioned some clubs have a strategy to get around those expensive transfer fees.
Oh yeah, some clubs, like Juventus, they target players who are almost out of contract. That way they don't have to pay a big fee to the other club. They still have to pay the player, though.
Right, got to negotiate a salary.
But it saves them a lot of money.
So it's all about being smart, finding ways to compete on and off the pitch. But seeing those massive transfer fees, those crazy wages, you'd think clubs are these financial giants, right?
Yeah.
But you said that's not always the case.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the big spending. But if you compare a club, even a big one like Manchester City, to a major global brand, the difference is huge. City's revenue was impressive, but their profit was way smaller than, say, their kit sponsor Puma.
That's really interesting. So the brands are actually the bigger financial players.
Often, yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But why do people even invest in clubs then? It's so expensive. What's the motivation?
Good question. Some people, they see it as an investment, a way to make money, but that's not always guaranteed.
Long-term play? Risky.
Definitely. But for others, it's ego. They want to own a big club, the prestige, the status.
It's a powerful thing. Okay, let's go even bigger. What's the impact of football on the global economy? It's like a huge, right?
It's more than just entertainment, that's for sure. Hard to put an exact number on it, but we can see how big it is. For example, Europe imported over $13 billion in sporting goods in 2019 and exported almost $12 billion. Football's a big chunk of that. Equipment manufacturing, ticket sales, player wages, broadcasting rights. It all adds up.
It's this massive global web of money, and it's all connected to globalization, right? You see players from all over the world playing in different leagues.
Exactly. And there's research that suggests a link between a country's success in football and its overall development. GDP, Human Development Index, things like that. Look at Japan, Qatar, China. They're becoming bigger players in football, and they're all pretty wealthy countries.
So the better you do in football, the better your economy does. Or the other way around.
It's probably a bit of both. A strong economy can support a strong football program, and success in football can boost national pride.
Right, it's all connected. What about brands? They've got to be a big part of this global economic picture.
Absolutely. You have the big sportswear companies, Nike, Adidas, they're always competing. Then you have countries like Pakistan. They make most of the world's footballs. That's a lot of jobs. Those big kit deals like Brazil and Nike back in the 90s, that was massive at the time. And now you have billionaire owners buying up top clubs.
From all over the world.
It's a globalized sport, for sure.
And those player transfers, that's a huge economic impact, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Those big money moves like Neymar going to PSG, that impacts everything. The clubs, the leagues, the fans. And those transfer fees, they just keep going up. Look at the most valuable clubs in the world. Real Madrid, Manchester United, they're always at the top. And the value of all those clubs keeps rising. It's a booming industry.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit, talk about the leagues and tournaments. How do they fit into all this?
Right. So you have your clubs, right. They're always there. Players train together, get paid regularly.
Makes sense.
National teams are different. They only come together for specific events. World Cup qualifiers, tournaments.
And the World Cup, that's the big one, right? Economically and everything else.
Well, yeah, the World Cup is massive. Countries will spend anything to host it. The prestige is huge. It's all about national pride. And it's grown so much, from a few teams to over 200 competing for a spot.
Unbelievable. At the club level, it's the Champions League, right? The one everyone wants to win.
Definitely. The Champions League is the biggest club competition in the world. Hundreds of millions of viewers, tons of money from TV and sponsors. And then you have your national leagues. The Premier League is probably the most famous. It's super competitive, best players in the world.
And it's making a ton of money.
Oh, yeah. Even mid-table teams in the Premier League are making serious cash. The broadcasting deals, the sponsorships, it's all huge. And it's not just about the money. The Premier League creates jobs, supports football development. It's a big deal.
So those leagues and tournaments, they're the foundation, the engine that drives everything.
100%.
Now, at the top, you have the governing bodies, FIFA, UEFA. They got to play a big role in the business side too, right?
Oh, yeah. They're crucial. FIFA is the big one. Over 200 member associations. They're responsible for developing the sport globally, and they have all these financial programs to support that. They've also shifted their strategy to focus on the World Cup. That's where the money is.
Makes sense.
The 2018 World Cup in Russia was a perfect example. Record revenue, tickets, broadcasting, everything. And they distribute a lot of prize money, too. The winning team gets a huge chunk.
That's got to be a nice bonus.
And Europe, they've always been a dominant force in football, haven't they?
Sure.
It all started with England, really. They were there at the beginning. And a lot of the top teams in the world are European. South America's got a rich history, too, of course. Lots of World Cup wins. But Europe's got more.
And UEFA, that's their governing body, right? They
Yeah.
run the Champions League.
Yeah, and they make a lot of money, more than FIFA, actually, which is interesting because FIFA is the global body, but UEFA puts a lot back into developing the game in Europe.
That's good. They've had some tough times recently, though, right? With the pandemic and everything.
The pandemic was a challenge for everyone. Euro 2020 had to be postponed, but UEFA handled it well, got everything back on track. But then you have the corruption scandals. That FIFA stuff in 2015?
Not a good look.
Definitely not. They're trying to clean up their image, but it's going to take time.
Makes sense. Okay, we talked about sponsors, but the sportswear companies and the broadcasters, they're a huge part of the business too, right?
Yeah, they're the ones fueling the engine. You have your big global brands, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, they sponsor FIFA, UEFA for the big tournaments. Then you have Nike and Adidas. They're always fighting to get those kit deals with the big clubs and national teams.
Those deals must be worth a fortune.
Oh, yeah. Some of the biggest in sports, Barcelona, Real Madrid. They're making hundreds of millions from those deals. And the pandemic impacted them, too. Nike and Adidas both saw their revenue drop.
Right, everything was shut down.
But they bounced back. Adidas, they've got that long history with the World Cup. They've been the official ball supplier since 1970.
Wow, that's a long time.
Nike's doing well, too, sponsoring lots of top players and teams. And then you have your other brands, Emirates, Samsung. They all want their logo on a jersey. It's prime advertising space.
I guess it is. Everyone watches football.
Exactly. And then you have broadcasting. That's become the biggest moneymaker for the sport. It reaches so many people. Billions watched the 2018 World Cup.
More than can ever fit in a stadium.
Way more. The Bundesliga in Germany, most of their revenue comes from TV deals. FIFA, too.
Wow, that's all about those broadcasting rights.
And it's interesting to see how it's changing. Asian and North African markets, they're becoming really important for FIFA's TV revenue. They're even surpassing Europe in some cases. And digital content is growing too. Clubs are making more videos, more content for their fans online.
Makes sense. Reach them where they are.
That's the future.
Okay, last thing. Let's talk about the impact of football on, like, whole countries, the social and economic side of things.
Right. It's not just a game. These big events like the World Cup, they can be huge for tourism. Look at Russia, Brazil, millions of visitors.
Spending money.
Boosting the economy. Even the music gets popular. Waka Waka from South Africa, that was everywhere.
I remember that song.
But it's not always a guaranteed success. Some events have a bigger impact than others.
Yeah.
And then you have the prize money. That can be huge for the countries that win. France won $38 million in 2018.
Not bad.
And then there's the manufacturing side. Pakistan, they make most of the world's footballs. That's thousands of jobs. It's a major part of their economy.
It really is a global industry. So many people rely on it.
And FIFA, they have a responsibility to help grow the game. They put a lot of money back into development programs all over the world.
That's good to hear.
It's important for the future of the sport.
Well, we've covered a lot. It's clear that the business of football, it's massive, complicated, and it's always changing.
Yeah, it's fascinating. There's always something new happening. New deals, new technologies, new ways for fans to connect.
It makes you think about how everything's connected. The sport,
Yeah,
the business, the world, it's all intertwined.
for sure. And it makes you wonder about the future.
Right. Like with all this money coming in, can football stay true to its roots?
Good question. I don't have the answer, but it's definitely something to think about.
If you're interested in learning more, there's so much to explore. Club ownership, financial regulations, women's soccer. It's a deep rabbit hole.
It really is.
Hopefully this deep dive gave you a good overview, a starting point for your own exploration.
It maybe sparks some curiosity.
That's what we're here for. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.